Now, a DJ and promoter who is currently presenting on Cambridge FM has been putting in the graft to support up-and-coming artists and will be hosting a cypher to celebrate the hip-hop community. Now, as well as that, he champions artists in loads of other ways, whether that's on his radio show or with local events. So let's welcome to the show DJ Rehmidi. How are you?
Hey, thanks very much, Angelle. Thanks for having me. And thanks for reaching out to me all those months ago as well. It's a pleasure to be here and see you in person.
It was good because I was weirdly trailing the internet and I found your show.
Right, yeah.
And then weirdly, I don't know whether I must have just liked something on your page, and then you DM'd me and I was like, that's weird, because I was listening to your show. That's so strange.
I'm glad it's reached, further afield.
It got to where it needed to get to, clearly.
Thanks for listening.
Because look at where we are now.
And we're here in the flesh. It's a pleasure.
And we've spoken for months, never met.
No.
So good to meet you.
It would be a sin if we didn't, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I recommended you some food as well. You fill up.
I am, yeah. Is it Lucky's?
Yeah.
A shout out to them just across the road. Yeah, delicious.
Yeah,
love get a little plug in there. We've done it.
Hey, other food shops are available.
Oh, right, yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
Now let's talk about your musical journey. Like so many DJs and artists and rappers, it starts with record collecting. So tell me about some of those early sounds that you were collecting and playing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my mum was putting money sort of aside when I was growing up, I guess, for a rainy day. We didn't really know what for. And I was being surrounded by hip hop music just here and there. I used to play basketball a lot, and we used to go out on the streets and, play street ball, I guess. And there was always hip hop music playing. And I think the passion just kind of grew from there. And, one day I thought, I want to get I'm interested with this DJing thing. Like, how does this work? How do they scratch? How do they mix? I started to become more interested in that. And, that money that was put aside was put towards my first pair of turntables.
Oh.
And it just kind of just grew from there. I had...
No, before you get into that, though, I want to know about that first vinyl. Like,
sure.
what was the music that made you be interested?
So we're talking early 2000s. I think Eminem was all the rage at that time. And then, he just crossed over and just created this... He just blew the doors down, and it's like, who is this guy, And then naturally with him, you get exposed to Dr. Dre and all of his affiliates as well. So I would say it was those kind of collective of artists that I just kind of gravitated towards first.
What was it about their sound that you felt connected with?
I think it was just like the care, like just no care. It was just, obviously, it's going to be clean versions on this show. But
I was about to say the radio version of saying what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think it was just that lack of care, great lyricism, lots of punchlines, heavy production by Dre. It was just very, it made noise at that time, and I just couldn't sort of ignore it.
Now you got those turntables.
Yeah.
What was that first experience press and play on a track on there, on a record?
I loved it. It's so hands-on. I think a lot of DJs these days, they'll start with a laptop, and it's a very different experience. Back then when I was trying to mix vinyl, you're using your ears, rather than your eyes. You have to get the feel of the record. You know exactly when to drop it in. You've got to get the tempo right. You've actually got to listen with both ears, and distinguish those two songs at the same time. It's a real craft, and I'll still say that to this day. Anyone that wants to learn and really sort of master their craft in DJing, start with records, because it gives you that training, that fundamental training.
No, that's so cool.
So yeah.
I recently saw a video of Jams from BBC Six Music first mixing for the first time with records. This is an amazing DJ, and it was like, again, I spoke to her about going back to the roots of it, and actually, we're using all this digital stuff, but actually connecting with the record, the feel of it, all
exactly.
of that stuff, how important it is to then progress, as a DJ as well. So you started picking up turntables, playing some tunes, and then you started DJing proper out to the public. Yeah,
so I suppose I was a bedroom DJ for about a year, I actually had a book called How to DJ Properly. Oh, and it was a great book.
Idiot's Guide.
It was a great book. Yeah, literally had little diagrams in there, and that just made sense to me. So I used to come home from school and just, play music for hours, study that book hard, chapter by chapter, and it just kind of developed through there. But I suppose first records that I started playing around with, I suppose actually was more of your dance hall, like your Sean Paul, and like using those same rhythms, you know, because like obviously dance was very rhythm based, so that use a lot of the same instrumentals in all those tunes. So
do you have a favourite?
That was like an easy mix for me, I suppose. I can't even remember is it Diwali rhythm?
Oh my gosh,
Get Busy? Yeah. So that was like the go-to, just to make sure that I could at least blend those two perfectly before I try anything else, you know?
That is such a banger as well. Yeah. And then, you know, using the guide, and then how did you then take that to a club or a venue for the first public performance?
Sure. So, I mean, you know, this is a sign of my age now. I recorded my first mix on a cassette tape.
No way.
I took that tape to my local club that were doing under 18s nights at the time, considering, you know, I'm about 15 at this point, right? And, you know, I said to the manager, give this a listen, see what you think, you know, get back to me. And lo and behold, I guess, you know, a couple of weeks later, it was like, okay, let's get you in.
At 15?
Yeah. So I know, nice. It's under 18s, you know, it's still it's
no,
clean.
but still, it's cool, yeah. It's good.
And
imagine when you go back to school on Monday, what did you do on the weekend? Well,
I know, I know. You know when Will Smith was like really popular at school because he'd released his first single, like whilst he was at school. Yeah, it was kind of that feeling, you know. I'm playing music, but. Yeah, I think I started off warming up basically. So that he'd give me like an hour before the main DJ went on, and it just kind of went from there.
That's fair though. Yeah. That must have been really exciting at the time.
It was great. Yeah. Although it did take me a while to read the crowd. I think that's a skill that takes years actually. You know, I was going in and I was dropping stuff like, or basically like my small vinyl collection at that time. So that's kind of my music.
Your music, yeah.
You know, I remember dropping stuff like Wiley and Dizzy even, you know, that early grime stuff.
Yeah. They weren't ready for it.
Yeah, no, not quite. Yeah, much to the manager's kind of like, oh, I don't know about this type thing. So yeah, it did take a while to kind of read the room, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you take that then to start supporting DJs and, you know, DJing for artists as well? Yeah,
I mean, still around that time, it was pretty much down to that same club, and they were just getting acts in every couple of months. So I kind of had the privilege of just being that guy that was warming up and, you know, handing them the mics. We had the likes of N-Dubs down there, Wiley, EZ, who else? Yeah, I mean, there was a whole bunch. So that was a good experience as well.
It sounds like it's the time of the Channel U time as well.
Absolutely, early 2000s.
Did that help? You know, when music started to go less into vinyl, more into this the UK sound taking over TV. Was that part of how you found your music discovery as well?
A bit, yeah. I think my style has always been leaning more towards like US hip hop, if I'm completely honest. But at the same time, you can't ignore what's happening in the UK as well. But yeah, I think the US hip hop really, you know, was my first passion, and it still sort of continues to this day. Nice.
You then went into a bit of music production.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. Well, prior to that, I was a dancer for a short while as well.
I knew you had moves. I could just tell.
Yeah. Throughout school and college, I ended up training in London for a while. But I realised that actually my love for dance was purely from a musical point of view.
God, yeah.
You know, so unless it was really kind of focused on music, I wasn't really interested. You know, and sometimes it wasn't like that.
Wow. What style of music? Just in case, you know, it might be ballet. So.
Well, yeah. Do you know what? I had to do some training in ballet. Yeah. It was more sort of your contemporary dance, so it could have been anything really.
Wow.
And it was a good time. You know, I look back on that fondly. You always learn from these experiences, but ultimately I dropped out after a year and then moved into music production.
Wow.
And that felt like the right move.
Did that feel like it was taking you back to the early vinyl pickup days where you were finding the sounds and kind of falling in love with Dr. Dre's sound and his beats as well as the vocals?
Absolutely. I mean, you're learning a whole new skill set when you start production. You know, DJing was there as a foundation, but when you start to really listen to the sound quality of a track, how to work with artists, you know, how to set up microphones and get the best sound from a guitar, like all this sort of thing was another level of training that I was really appreciative for. And, you know, met some great artists that way as well, not just within hip hop, but all manner of genres. So that was a great experience there as well.
And you actually went on to study that as well?
Yeah, 4 years up at the University of Derby. Shout out, you know, those guys, they trained me up and I got my first bit of radio experience there as well. So
it's all about the music for you, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. Imagine a world without it. I couldn't.
Silence. I think the only thing I could listen to is the sea. Like there was no music.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that's musical in a sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
My own heartbeat.
Exactly.
Oh, we're getting deep. I want to play a track that reminds you of your early days.
Please
I asked
do.
you to pick 2 tracks for us. This first one, Dr. Dre.
Yes.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Tell me about this track.
Next episode. I mean, you've got your NWA Dre and you've got your Chronic Dre. I think he had a big sort of break, and this is almost like a generation later where he comes out with 2001, and it's kind of like it's basically him just saying, I'm back and I'm ready to keep going, and I've brought this whole catalogue of new artists with me, and it still stands the test of time to this day.
Honestly, listening to it again, I was like, God, this could come out tomorrow and it'd be like, oh.
Yeah, it's a bit of a basic one, you drop it in the club, like most people know it, right? But for me, that was my way in.
It's become legendary now.
Yeah,
Have you been following a lot of the celebrating 50 years of hip hop
Oh,
stuff?
absolutely. Yeah. And I love what's going on this year. There's so many great concerts, and events of all these legendary artists coming together. What was it? Was it the Source, or I can't remember. But I'm seeing concerts and events all over the place.
Lauryn Hill making a comeback as well. Not in the UK.
No. Well, that's the thing. There's some great concerts that I've seen in the US. And sometimes I'll comment on Instagram, like, just bring it to the UK.
Bring it to the UK.
Please.
I'll be the support warm-up DJ.
Exactly. Just at them personally and be like, listen, this is what I can do.
Yeah. Well, you're a radio presenter.
Yes.
So do you want to introduce a track for me?
I can do. Yeah, sure. So this track, absolutely legendary. The next episode on that classic 2001 album by Dr. Dre and Snoop.
Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, the next episode on the Friday night show, as picked by my lovely guest, DJ Rehmidi. Yep. We should talk about that name. Was that... And have you had that from the very beginning?
That was a name that I chose when I started producing. Actually, we were just talking about my music production endeavors, and I was like, I need a name. I can't just be Joe. Do you know what I mean? So Rehmidi, and the way that it's spelt refers to my Moroccan family. Actually, the surname is Remy, Rehmi. So it just stems from that. It's just an ode to that side, I suppose, of myself. So got that in there, and then obviously MIDI, MIDI, kind of.
That's what I'm thinking.
It all makes sense, right?
God, you also into maths, like.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I love that.
I like to think multiple meanings, even if no one else really understands it.
Yeah. Is there Joe needs a meaning as well?
Joe.
Yeah.
It has a meaning.
Does it?
Joseph means apparently it means he shall add. So
there we go. Well, my name's Angelle Joseph.
Joseph, you're a Joseph as well.
Add in the
exactly.
Angelle.
Yeah.
That's what we're adding.
Yeah, that's it.
Now we're currently talking about your DJ journey and early productions. You went on to DJ for a while. Did you have some standout gigs that you remember and fondly enjoy thinking about? Yeah,
I mean, in those early days, it was just more local around Suffolk, to be honest, a few bits in Essex. And then I started DJing a little bit when I was up in Derby studying music production. Once I graduated, to be honest, I just wanted to travel. So I actually spent a number of years just sort of backpacking and finding oneself, I suppose.
Got to be done.
And then I was trying to think of a way that I could travel but still do music, right? And I landed on these cruise ship gigs. So, it's like, if you're not familiar, you stop at a different destination every day. And, I had the pleasure of being a DJ on some of these cruises, right? So I'd be out, 6, 8, 10 months at a time, DJing every day.
That's the dream, isn't it? It's so fun.
It's
on paper.
On paper, yeah. I don't want to put it down at all, because I ended up doing that for about 4 years.
Wow.
It's a great money saver. It's a great way to see the world, but I would say it has a sell by date, especially me playing like every single day. Yeah. And obviously, you
different crowd though every day.
Yeah, but you have to play to that crowd. I'm passionate about hip hop and, black music, and sometimes it just wasn't that.
Yeah.
You have to play for everybody, all age groups, all demographics. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about all, people's music tastes, all types of different genres. I tried to kind of incorporate music from the destinations that we were visiting as well. If we were going to Cuba or Jamaica, get some of that involved. So yeah, all in all, generally great times.
How are you collecting and finding music on your journey when you don't have a base at that point?
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness for Wi-Fi, I suppose. Yeah. It was really just a case of that, docking at somewhere and then finding a cafe and just catching up and trying to access what I could and trying to sort of stay present and current like that.
Yeah, wow.
No carrying records.
No way.
Yeah.
But also maybe going into record shops in little independent ones and
There was a
finding
few
stuff.
knocking about, but yeah, I'd say by this point, I'm sort of 25 now, and we're moving more towards my laptop DJing, which is fine, there's definitely loads you can do now creatively. So yeah, it moved to that, and it had to be. I imagine playing a record on a rocky cruise ship, it wouldn't have worked.
What controller do you use now then?
I've got a Pioneer DDJ SX3, if that means anything to anybody. But you can do some cool creative stuff on there.
Are you on this new Serato stem thing?
Do you know what? I was going to mention that. Yeah, you know about that?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane.
I'm on record boxes, but they've just bought the license apparently, so it's coming.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. I mean, if people don't know, by the push of a button, you can just get rid of an instrumental or just drop the a cappella. It's insane.
I don't understand science.
It's not perfect, it's not perfect audio quality when you do that, but it's good enough, right? Yeah. Insane. So yeah, doing live mashups and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's good fun. It's good fun.
For sure. Now, you speaking about finding oneself, you travelled to Thailand for a bit as well.
Yeah.
One of my favourite countries ever.
Oh wow. Yeah.
What was that experience like, and were you able to DJ there as well? Insane.
Yeah, so I went out there primarily to teach English, and I actually got thrown in to teach a lot more than that. I was teaching maths and science and humanities at ICT, so I was a busy guy. But luckily there's a lot of. I was based in Koh Samui. And if you don't know, there's lots of bars, there's lots of nightlife there. So I did make some good connections there and managed to actually have quite a few residencies around the island.
How did I not see you?
Oh yeah, so you were out there at the same time?
I was there, 2019.
Dang, yeah. I'd have been there, yeah.
Missed you?
Yeah, I know.
Didn't go dancing. It's all about finding myself.
Exactly, yeah. You were at a yoga retreat. Yeah.
I was up the mountain.
Up a mountain somewhere, meditating.
But I love the music scene there as well.
Exactly. Yeah, there's definitely a scene, and there I came across a group of DJs and promoters that were doing hip hop nights, and
because it's rare to find.
Yeah, a lot of people doing their trance and techno and house and stuff. So that was kind of already covered. So when it came to hip hop, I was I got in there. They took me under their wing and got a few good gigs out of that. But it was a bittersweet time because it was the pandemic.
Okay.
So it was very.
Whoever's there, they're there.
Yeah. It was fluctuating. So yeah, ups and downs on that one, but generally, again, great experience.
Then when you came back, what was the next part of your life? Did you find yourself? Were you ready to take over the world again?
Absolutely, yeah. So I returned back to the UK last year for various reasons, and I'm actually from Sudbury, so I'm a Suffolk born and raised. But for me, it doesn't particularly have much opportunity music-wise, so I wanted to just branch out a bit and landed upon Cambridge. I've been, I visited Cambridge many times before, and I just love the vibe of that city for some reason. I can't quite describe it, but there's something about that city that just resonates with me, and I decided to move there. And since moving there, I approached Cambridge 105 and sort of plugged the idea. I realised that I didn't have a hip hop show or anyone, covering hip hop.
Any black music.
There's an urban bassline show. Shout out to Johnny Five. He's more on that side, like your bassline and sort of more electronic side, but not hip hop per se. So I just plugged it to them. I said, this is what I can do. This is the history that I have as a DJ so far. This is what I can bring for you. And they sat down with me. We had a bit of a talk, and the first pilot was last August, I believe. Yeah, so it's been just over a year now that I've sort of been on the air, and I couldn't have asked for more. It's just grown exponentially. It's been great. It's been great.
Did you start that from scratch, as in finding the contacts to the guests and rappers, or were you doing some promotion already and you kind of took them on the journey with you? Yeah,
no, I mean, I was a newbie into the city, so I knew nobody. That's
how I started,
I knew nobody. I was an outsider. Yeah. And it was just a case of sending the email, to be honest, and a guy that I was working with, Connor, shout out to him, I wanted to get him on as my co-host, I guess, because I like the back and forth chat, the interaction. He's a massive hip hop fan as well. So to be honest, it really just stemmed from me and him just sharing our passion for hip hop and just having a bit of a laugh with it, playing our favorite tunes, talking about those tunes, how they connect to us. And that was it. And then the guest element of it kind of came a bit later. We didn't really realise that there was so many amazing, talented hip hop artists in the city. So that was a whole another thing that came after.
Cambridge popping off like that, yeah.
It really is. It seems that way, and it's great to see. It's great to see.
I love watching your page and listening to your show, because you are, I guess when you're doing it, you don't know who's watching or listening.
Yeah.
And then, I was just like so surprised. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is cool. And also I felt like they really respected you, and clearly there was a gap for you and they needed it.
Yeah.
Do you get some good feedback from the artists like that?
Great feedback. And literally what you've just touched on there, the need for it. I hear that all the time. Like there was a real lack of representation and a platform for hip-hop artists in Cambridge. It had been done before. Shout out to Tom Simpkins, who held it down at BBC over there. I think he was there for a good 10 years, and he got a lot of hip-hop artists in on his introducing show. And there was a big event way back when called Raw Organics, and they used to get big US names down like Ice-T, Gangstar, Ghostface Killer. Like there was a scene back then, Amazing. And for some reason, whatever it might have been, it kind of took a drop. So kind of where I've come in, it seems like we're able to kind of just fill that gap and help it grow from there.
Oh, good work. Good work. So you're celebrating 1 year of the show. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Smashed it.
Yeah.
It's the beginning now of the next step.
That's it.
The live events version.
Indeed, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Everything's kind of just progressing really nicely, and it's not just me; it's a whole community of people: artists, presenters, videographers, photographers, everyone that shares this same vision for hip hop in Cambridge. And it's wouldn't be doable without everyone. I can't name them all, but the events thing is now popping off. I mean, I guess that stemmed from starting to get guests into the studio and just getting to know them and developing these relationships. I think I've interviewed some 15 guests now already. All of them bring their own sort of unique flavour to the show. Some notable ones for me are a PhD student who's actually doing his dissertation on hip hop. That was a great chat.
Nice.
Yeah. So, not just artists, but actual, enthusiasts as well. We had a Cambridge University jazz/hip hop band that came in and did their thing.
Amazing.
That was incredible. Coming in with saxophone and rapper and singer and all sorts of stuff. And as that's grown, the events are just naturally coming from that. We had a big cypher at Strawberry Fair.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's the one. That's the most notable one for me at the moment. So that was like a very last minute thing. I think Strawberry Fair had already kind of like established what they were doing. I think you kind of have to get in there by February, and I was a bit too late, right? But I got this last minute sort of window that's like, right, we need a gap to be filled. Can you do it? I had like a week to organise it, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to say yes, and we're going to make this happen. I assembled 10 Cambridge rappers, all very enthusiastic and up for it straight away. They was like, this is Strawberry Fair, yes, because it's one of the biggest festivals in Cambridge. I was DJing alongside Fen Stepper, shout out to him. And we shut it down. Very kind of like just spontaneous, but
organic.
Yeah, it was great. Nothing planned, nothing written. We just played whatever instrumentals we were feeling in the moment, and the rappers they just jumped on.
Love it.
And they killed it.
I can see the joy in your eyes as I'm speaking to you. You're really, really passionate about what you do, which is why it works, and you can do such a spontaneous thing like the cypher. What keeps you driven every day to keep doing what you're doing?
Well, since I've done this, like I say, when I started with Connor, my original host, I think, it was, let's just give this a go, and now it's developed to a point where I feel like I'm in a position where I almost have a responsibility, and it's having all that great feedback that I just mentioned, making these great connections with really like talented people and people that have that same, vision as I do. That's what pushes me, because if it wasn't for the whole community, then it might be a bit of a different story. But it's that collective thing, and we're just, trying to help each other out. So that's what pushes me, I think.
It's good to know. It's refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
So you've got your stuff coming up.
Yes.
Which is exciting, where people can see you live and direct.
Indeed.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, sure. So there's an event that's just started out called Scallywags in Cambridge. They've done 3 events now, and this is basically for local hip-hop artists to just come and do their thing, set lists, and then a cypher at the end is the format. Shout out to Jack Lamb, aka Lamb Chop 47. There's an explanation for that name. Who's the kind of the brains behind this, and he's got me on board, and I host it sometimes, and I'll DJ for it as well. But that's really just kind of the foundation at the moment for hip hop events in Cambridge. There's another event that I was kind of part of as well called Notorious, which is just DJ based. So you're talking more old school heads playing their Mary J or their Notorious or whatever it might be, and no MCs on that one. So like my idea was to kind of bring those 2 already existing events together.
Nice.
The idea being, we've got 2 rooms. In one room is beats, aka DJs. The other room is rhymes.
Boom.
With the MCs, beats and rhymes. 30th of September.
My first show was called Beats, Rhymes and Grime.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
If you want a grime room,
okay,
I'll come host that.
Yeah, might need another venue for that, but sure.
That's amazing. What a good way to mesh it all together, and it's so inclusive where you can decide what to do.
Exactly. If you're not quite feeling the sort of raw, slightly heavier underground sound, have a bit of a dance to those more commercial sort of danceable tunes in the beats room. So yeah, I'm hoping there's going to be 2 completely different vibes in there, something for everyone.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, where can people find more info?
So Hip Hop Show 105 on Instagram. There's a link to the tickets there. Early bird tickets only £5.
Oh wow!
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's pennies really. And we're doing a few extra things as well. So there's going to be a merchandise stall. I work with a lot of fashion designers. I'm also going to give away, I found this Hip Hop 50 vinyl compilation.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's got all the classics on it from way back in the day up until now. So that's going to be a little giveaway as well. So you could walk away with that, It could be a collectible.
That's great.
Yeah.
And when can people find you on the radio? Yeah,
so Cambridge 105 is a community station, but it's online, so it's accessible to everyone. Wednesday at 10 p.m. every week is my slot, and of course you can listen back whenever you want as well.
Listen without limits.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite rapper now, like a new one? New rapper?
Yeah, so I mean,
you don't have to pick someone local because then everyone might be on your case.
Oh, okay, sure, all right. yeah, okay, no. I'll stick to the US for now, not to discredit everything that's happening in the UK, but I will say that Joey Badass was just such a pivotal moment in me kind of regaining a passion for hip hop, because there was a time when I kind of didn't really know what was going on with the genre for a while. It's just because there's so many subcategories and different sort of avenues that it takes, right? And then when he kind of just blew out of nowhere, I was like, yes, hip hop is back. This is the sound that I've been yearning for. It's that kind of throwback to the nostalgic 90s sound, I guess. So yeah, I keep a lookout for everything that he's doing for sure.
I love that.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely see that as a bit of you.
Yeah.
Now we've got an artist who will be featured at your event, Tyler the Artist. Tell me a little bit about him. Yeah,
well, I discovered him actually as part of a collective called Big Smash Productions, led by an incredible producer called Big Smash, and he works with a lot of artists locally, Tyler being one of those. And this track that we've got lined up here has got production by Big Smash as well. And I mean, everyone in that collective has got their own sort of unique flavour that, Tyler just comes with that raw sort of just very lyrical, all types of flows. And some of the other guys in that collective are great in their own unique way as well. So shout out to them, really doing bits for Cambridge at the moment.
And you too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for finally meeting.
I know.
And thank you for coming on the show, my new show.
Thank you for inviting me, Angelle. Honestly, it had to happen and it's been an absolute pleasure.
We'll cross paths again, yeah?
We will, I hope so.
I'll try and come to your event one
Please
day.
do. Please do.
That'd be great. Well, let's get into a bit of Tyler the Artist then. Also supported by BBC Introducing and supported by you, most importantly, who you can find at the event. So go and follow Hip Hop
Show 105.
Show 105 on Instagram. This is Tyler the Artist with Next Up.